Afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Finding the Right Certificate Training Program to meet your career goals. And this is part of our Fresh Start Career Series, Career Exploration in 2022. As we all know, there have been a couple key terms recently since the pandemic hit: the Great Resignation, the Great Reshuffle, the great rethinking, with people really trying to figure out where they want to be in their career and how they can get there. So we welcome you on behalf of the Penn State Abington Continuing Education team. My name is Chris Cicio. I'm the director here, and I'm so happy and honored to be here alongside my colleagues, Randy Ingbritson and Alina Raskopin. Thank you both for being with us today and sharing your knowledge with our participants in today's session. So I just want to do a quick overview of certificate training programs so we all have a baseline on what they are. Continuing education is really us and with our professional development to build and strengthen our skills. So we might want to build skills that we already have. So perhaps we have some basic skills in Excel, but we want to advance those skills. It could also be to gain entirely new skills. So perhaps we are interested in doing coding, but we have no experience in that. So a certificate program might be the right way to get those skills. These are typically non-credit programs, and that's what the focus is for us today. Non-credit means that they are not associated with academic credit for degree programs. Non-credit programs and these certificate programs are becoming very popular with employers as well as students. And they're often used to either boost or pivot careers. And as I said, people are really evaluating what they're doing these days and trying to figure out the best career path forward for them. And employers and employees both value professional development and professional growth and the opportunity to gain or build new skills. I also want to touch upon the difference between certificate programs and license programs. So certificates usually mean that you take a class or a program, a certificate program, and you earn that certificate program at the end after completing the education components. A license is a little bit more in-depth and usually includes different prerequisites like education, experience, and sometimes you might even have to take an exam to get that license. You typically have to apply for that license and be approved by either a state board or some governing body to get that license. The licensures are usually associated also with continuing education requirements. So for instance, if I earn my license in this year, I might have to earn 20 CEU units within the next 3 years to maintain my license. And the last thing I just want to touch upon is digital badging. This is something that was introduced back in 2012. It's an advancement of technology. It's really like a digital certificate. So when you complete one of these programs, you may get a digital badge in addition to a certificate. The digital badge is something that you can include on either a digital resume or include it on your LinkedIn profile and share it that way with potential employers or your employer. And when they click on that digital badge, it will show them what skills you earned in that program. So perhaps you learned communication skills, maybe you learned customer service skills, maybe you learned Excel skills, and that will really give them a quick overview of how that program benefited you. We have a diversity, equity, inclusion certificate that we are launching this fall, and we will have a digital badge associated with it so that our students can add that to their LinkedIn profiles and to their resumes and show employers what they learned in that particular program. And finally, I just want to go over the value of these programs before I turn it over to Randy. There's really two values to this. There's value to the student, and then there's value to the organization or the employer. The student gains credibility. So they'll be able to show their current employer or a prospective employer what their skills are and how they learned it based on a credible and recognized certificate program. Typically, there's higher salaries associated with more certificates as well, which is something that is very valuable to students and registrants in these programs. And technology and skills are constantly changing. So to be able to take these programs and learn the skills that employers are looking for is incredibly valuable to the students. And the last thing is that it's good for professional growth, but also personal growth as well. These programs provide students with the information and education that they need to feel confident in what they're doing and the skills that are associated with that certificate program. And the value to the organizations is similar. They are able to keep up to date with, they're able to have their employees keep up to date with their skills and fill skills gaps and be able to adapt to what the needs are of the organization because they are constantly changing. And it provides the organization a chance to invest in their employees and their professional development. According to a LinkedIn study back in 2018, 94% of employees would stay with a company longer if they invested in their career. And 86 of respondents said they would change jobs if it meant more opportunities for professional development. So the value to employers is significant as well to recruit and retain the best talent. I'm going to turn it over to Randy now.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And you can put it on the next slide. So really the next part of our journey or our discussion is about opportunity and the future and what you can do today to make your journey, educational journey, the best that it can be. The first step is to really have a specific goal to set your direction. So you really want to think about what are your career goals. If your goal is centered on a career boost, you can look at certificates that build or enhance your current skills. For example, let's say you're striving to become the manager of your department. So a management or a leadership certificate could meet your needs. You also want to think about what your employer looks for in their managers. Maybe you can talk with a manager that you respect about their own educational journey. If your goal is career transition or career transformation, you want to start looking at certificates that teach maybe an entirely new set of skills or a new skill. For example, let's say you're interested in planning to start your own business in senior or elderly care. So a certificate in dementia or a certificate in diabetes care would demonstrate to a client that you have the training to maybe meet their specific needs. And what you want to do is you really want to look at identifying skills gaps that exist in the industry that can help you fill in with more training. Excuse me, I have my phone ringing of all times, right? So if you, Chris, you can move it to the next slide. So as you reflect on your career goals, you really want to start looking for some themes. Is there a driver that really stands out? Is there a key piece that's resonating? Goals really represent that opportunity. So your driver is important. It's something that you're going to continually circle back to throughout your entire educational journey, time and time again. You want to think of it as your why. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? It may be related to job satisfaction. Is there something in your current role or that you're picturing in your dream role that you want to be doing more of? For example, you really enjoy computer programming. You wish you could do more of it. Or you like doing analytics, you like sitting with your colleagues and really analyzing data, and you don't feel you're doing enough of it. Or my example is, years ago, I discovered I love driving and I love meeting new clients. I love generating new business. So I really wanted to focus that on improving that skill. So that's what you want to think about. And you can move it to the final slide I'll be doing, Chris. So when you look at the skill sets and requirements, it's really important to assess yourself. Do you already have a certificate? If so, the path, the least expensive path, it might very well be to look for an advanced certificate. Might be much more cost effective to pursue that. Maybe the certificate that you currently has expired, and maybe you just need to renew it. One of the examples, I know a friend of mine, his pesticide application certificate expired, and he decided to do that versus start an entirely new arborist course. He's a landscaper, so to really rejuvenate that career, the easiest path for him was to get his applicator's license renewed. So, but you really want to start thinking about the skills that are in demand right now, and where do you relate in, where do you stand in relation to those skills? It's important here to mention that, we really should start looking at, or you can look at, how to break skills down as hard skills and soft skills. You might have heard these terms. Hard skills are kind of the technical hands-on skills. It might be, hooking computers up, physically hooking computers up, the hardware side of computers. It might be, like the networking side. It could be nursing skills, where it's you're doing assessments, physical assessments. It might be cooking. Cooking is a very hands-on activity. The soft skills, which is a lot of what we do in continuing ed at Penn State Abington, are the people skills, the interaction skills, communications, managing, leading, or supervising. So you really want to kind of keep those two categories in your mind when you start looking at your own skill sets. Everyone has both. It's just some people are more inclined to do more of the hard skills, and others might want to really focus on soft skills. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Alina, and she will continue on our presentation.
Thank you, Randy. So I'd like to talk about how do we research these training opportunities. And there's a few questions to consider both on this slide and the following slide after this one. So the first question you might want to ask yourself is, who is the training provider? Where am I going to go to receive this credential or this training or this license? Are they recognizable? Are they reputable? So it's doing the research into that. Secondly, you might want to ask yourself, is this an industry recognized program or credential? How will completing this program be recognized? Where will it be recognized? Is it national? Is it state? Is it county level? So where would it be recognized? One of the most determining questions that you might ask is, what is the cost? Many of the non-credit programs are not eligible for financial aid compared to traditional academic or credit programs. But there could be scholarships, discount, or your employer may sponsor aid to help you get through the program. And then finally, another question to ask would be, will I need to take the program by itself, or is there an exam associated with it? As Chris mentioned, the difference between certificate and licensure, some programs might require clinical hours to be put in to get your certificate of completion. Some may require an exam to receive the license or the certificate. So kind of what else is required? What experience might I need going into the program itself? And do I meet those qualifications? All right, Chris, you can take me to the next one. Thank you. And then these are 4 more questions that you can consider when you're researching. So one is, how long will it take me to complete the program? And does it fit with my schedule? You really have to ask, how does it look within your work-life school balance? And do you have the time to dedicate to completing this program? And then what skills will you learn to advance your career? Are those skills part of that dream goal that Randy was describing, or how will they help you to grow professionally within your career? And then following, is there a CEU or continuing education unit requirement after completing the program? For some credentials, you may have to continue learning and complete some other professional development to maintain the credential, or some credentials or certificates expire and you may have to redo or re-up the certificate. So maybe research what is the time commitment to keep the certificate or extend the certificate. And then lastly, something to consider if there is a non-credit to credit pathway. So could this training count towards credit hours in an academic program if you wanted to convert it into a higher education degree? Maybe this program can support some other sort of degree or program completion that you are looking for in a credit sense. So a bachelor's, master's degree, doctorate potentially. So thinking about how you can incorporate what you are already doing into other opportunities. For the next slide, please. And then one of the things I'd like to talk about is how do you get the most out of your training program? What do you have to do to really maximize this program for you? So first thing is you have to be committed to the program in time and energy and money. So what are you willing to put in? It also means what you're getting out of it potentially. And this means understanding and managing your work, home, school life balance. And to help maintain that balance, you might want to consider tracking your goals, assignments, course dates to help keep you on top of things and alleviate some of that stress of meeting deadlines. One of the things I really want to emphasize is this next point of support and to seek support if you need it. It's a big undertaking to start a training program, and it can be hard to maintain a good balance with everything else. And support can come from your family, your classmates, your instructor, your training providers, the people you work with, and more. The resiliency and the perseverance that you build while completing a training program are very important skills to highlight that you will build as you complete this program. A great support system can be the key to your successful completion of a training program. So think about who those people, who those support systems could be. And then finally, you want to think about networking with your instructor and your classmates during the program to help you extend that learning beyond the classroom. It can help you earn future potential employment if that is what you are seeking in your training program, to network with people who work in other areas or who might have a connection to get you an in. But it can also help you build that support system and just learning from other people's experiences. I'll take the next slide, please. And then lastly, what I'd like to talk about and touch upon is that continuing education is continuous. Indeed, it is a lifelong journey. So the skills that you'll need at your job and in your career constantly evolve and change and will require further education. The advancement of technology helps push us into needing continuous education. In coding, let's say, whatever you learn right now might be obsolete in 5 years. And you might need to maintain training or skills to be relevant in that field. So thinking about what training program or continuing education might help me maintain that certificate, but also maintain credibility in my career. And it's important to continually learn and maximize your skill sets. And some of that might require CEU requirements, other professional development to maintain it. And then the last question really that I want to leave with is, where do you want to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years in your career? And what skills and training do you need to help get you there? And what will you continue to learn on your journey? All right, I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you, Alina. That was really helpful. I love being able to think of those specific questions and figuring out what is that dream role? What do I want to be doing now or in the future? And how can I get there? So that was really helpful. And the last thing I just want to touch upon, and we've gone over a couple of these examples already, but these are some types of industry recognized credentials and certificate programs that might fit what you're looking to do. Project management, digital marketing, cybersecurity, coding. We know that healthcare is a very in-demand field right now and will continue to grow. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, learning more about that and how you can apply those principles to your day-to-day jobs. And then also there might be training that is specific to your organization that might be adapted to what your needs are for that particular organization. And you might be able to seek out custom training that can be adapted to what you need in that organization. And we just wanted to end on the next upcoming sessions for our series. Like I said, we are really trying to give more information to our students and provide some career advancement and career development opportunities to CE, our continuing education students or prospective students, to help you as you move in your careers and advance in your careers and evaluate your careers. So we have a digital marketing session coming up, an aging life care session coming up that Randy alluded to. We have the project management one. And then, like I said, the career development one that we have for tips to navigate the modern job search, because we know that that is always evolving as well. And these are our email addresses. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us about this session or anything else related to continuing education or your personal career development. We would love to speak with you further. And then of course our references, we need to throw those in there as well to give credit to who we referenced today. And thank you. I think that I will stop sharing my screen and open up to questions if we have any. And you can, to our participants, you can drop that in the chat if you would like to, or the Q&A. We are monitoring both. So we'll just give this a few seconds to open up to questions, and we will end with that. But again, we want to thank you for being with us today. And we're glad that you joined Penn State Abington's continuing education team on your Monday afternoon. So I see one question that's come in. Can anybody talk about what is the first step that you would take if you are thinking about getting a certificate? What is the first step that you would take? If Randy or Alina, I know Randy, you talked about a little bit, but can you say exactly, would it be researching the opportunities, maybe assessing your skills? What would you recommend as that first step?
Take this one. I think I would say first identify what you want to do. So is it expanding upon your current skill set, or is it building a new skill set? Really thinking about where you want to be in that next 5, 10, 20 years, and picturing your pathway there. From that point, you can assess your inventory of skills. What do you already have in your education back pocket? And can you build upon those education, or do you need to start fresh and earn entry-level certifications that get you to the next step? So really it's an internal process first, I think, and then you research the opportunities.
Right. In addition to what Alina said, I think it would be helpful to, and something I never did much of until recently, is to journal, to really write down what you're thinking, because it's dynamic. It's, as Alina mentioned, it's ever evolving. You can think you're on one path, and then you talk with a friend and it sounds interesting. And, you really need to do a lot of, I think, personal assessments to figure out what you like to do. And then, just like Alina just said, is it a totally new career, or is it something I'm happy where I am, but I want to be, I want to stay here, but I'd like to be doing this. That's going to be kind of the pivotal decision, because if it's a new skill set, that's where you may be facing a little bit longer of a journey towards that first step.
Yeah, that was a very good question. Thank you. I have another one that came in, and I think it's interesting. I found a certificate training program that I'm interested in taking. How would you advise me to approach my employer to see if they would support me financially and time-wise to go for that certificate training program? Do you have any advice on how I can approach my employer or manager?
I would recommend rehearsing. And I would be enthusiastic. You know, if you are excited about this program, it needs to show. And if you are excited, even if it's expensive, or, you know, there's going to be maybe 1,000 reasons you can think why they're going to say no. It's too expensive, or it's going to be too much time. Don't let that enter your thoughts. Really, why is it, why you're excited about it, what you will do, how it will help yourself and also your employer. But I would really script it out and practice before you actually, you know, set that meeting up. And don't be shy. Have your notes in front of your director or your department leader, saying, you know, don't be shy in that.
I think that that's great and really good advice. I would say that one of the additional things is to show what the value is to your manager, maybe your department, maybe your organization as a whole, when you go and have that conversation too. How will those skills help you in your current role? Maybe you're a new manager and you saw a leadership development program that you really think would help supervise your new team or something like that. I think that that's really also helpful, and show the value to the organization so they can figure out how and if they can support you. I have one final question, and I think that this is a really good one because, you know, what we're talking about right now is for adults, and we have all mentioned that we as adults that have competing priorities. We have our home lives, we have our work lives, and now we might be adding in an additional element to that with school life. I haven't been back to school in a long time. Is this hard? Is it hard to go back to school as an adult learner? And do you have any advice regarding that?
I think the biggest piece of advice I have for that one is to build your network of support. Get your family on board, your employer on board. It can be an adjustment going back to school and, you know, figuring out those deadlines, doing assignments. But if you have that family support that says, your partner or whoever that says, you know, I'll take the kids so you can study or attend your class. You have your classmates that can help you study or prepare for the classes upcoming. I think building that support system is very important before, during, and after your whole journey through the certificate program.
I was at a nonprofit event yesterday, and we were talking about who is the rock in your life. And I think that that really is what this is about too, identifying a rock that can support you. And if you can't immediately identify somebody, you can go to your training provider or instructor, or maybe one of your classmates, and they can be your rock during this time too. Maybe it's a colleague at your job that you can let them know what you're doing and that you need some support or assistance going forward. So I definitely agree with you, Alina, and identifying a rock, somebody that you can rely on during this, I think really does help the transition of going back to school.
Right. And, you know, it may very well be hard. You know, the journey may be difficult. You know, you're going to face hardships probably, but it's in the challenges and the difficulties where we grow. You grow on the edges. You don't kind of grow when you're like in the same path. You really need to push yourself, and having that rock, having that example, and then, like I mentioned early on, having the why, you know, having a solid foundation of why you are doing this. And there's going to be bumps in the road, but that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to get aggravated. But you know, you have your why, you have your motivation, and you have your support system. You know, it happens, you know, it's probably gonna happen. So it's, you know, those are the real key pieces.
Thank you. That's great. Those are all the questions that I have right now, unless any of our other participants happen to be typing right into the chat right now. But otherwise, on behalf of the Penn State Abington Continuing Education team, I really want to thank everybody for taking your time this Monday afternoon to join us today, learn more about professional development and continuing education. And like we said, if you have any further questions or just want to talk a little bit more about your career path or continuing education, please feel free to reach out to me, Randy, or Alina. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.